Well, let me start. In my opinion, a record-breaking year this year. So much stuff was passed. But I have to believe, even though there were huge topics that you guys got a lot of work done, there was that moment where you're like, wow, and you can maybe take yourself back to for me real quick. What was that moment for you?
I think walking into the chamber and giving my State of the State earlier this year, just the sea change that has happened here politically in Michigan is really kind of took my breath away. I'd served in the legislature representing, parts of the Lansing area in the House and in the Senate, in the minority the whole time. And so to take the rostrum as, someone who's got a lot more allies in the legislature now, the opportunity ahead was really kind of a moment that took my breath away.
I have to believe too, sorry, I'll get to you in a second, that also meant that Michigan was kind of leaning towards your way too.
Well, I think that a combination of things, right? We had reproductive rights on the ballot. We had fairly drawn districts for the first time, not gerrymandered. We had made it easier for people to participate in the election. All of these things, I think, kind of culminated in this moment where we actually have a legislature that's more reflective of the people of Michigan. It's not about going my way. It's about, doing what the people of Michigan want, and what an opportunity we finally had to do it.
You weren't lost in the shuffle, though, and maybe not in the news as much. I'm not reading your name as many times as I am for the Governor Whitmer, but I know you were super focused. Tell us more, because I know I saw you a lot with voting. I think you launched something last year, My First Vote. I believe juvenile justice reform. So tell me a little bit more about what your year was like.
I mean, it's amazing to be able to see folks in Michigan everywhere I go really feel like their government was more reflective of them, as the governor mentioned. I got to say the moment that really hit home for me was earlier this year. As the president of the Senate, I preside every day in the chamber. But I actually had the ability to pass the gavel to Senator Jerry Moss, the President Pro Tem of the Senate, who has been leading since he's been in the legislature the charge to change our state civil rights law, the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act, to explicitly protect the LGBTQ plus community, and him as a gay man to be able to hand him the gavel to preside over that vote. That was an amazing moment for me to see, again, just Michigan progress. There wasn't a dry eye in the chamber, on the floor, in the gallery with the staff, and that's something that I think spoke to what progress looks like and what it can feel like in the state of Michigan. And so we were able to make progress on this and a whole host of other issues. I am proud of how we did work in a bipartisan manner to reform our juvenile justice system for the better, and was great to be able to sign that legislation personally. But really, that just shows that there's so many things that we can do when we work together in Michigan, and progress feels real.
Seems like a million years ago, but education reform, record-breaking for this state. Talk about why that was important for you.
Well, as a product of our local public schools here in the Lansing area, and a mom of my daughters who went to school here as well, I know that giving kids a real equitable, robust educational start is crucial to lifelong success. And so these record budgets that we've been able to get done were just 5 years in a row, long overdue, changing the tide of disinvestment from public education. We also were able to deliver free breakfast and lunch for all 1.4 million Michigan kids, which is phenomenal when you think about food insecurity and how a hungry child has a difficult time doing anything, much less taking in a lesson if they're worried about where their next meal is coming from. And I'll tell you, just the anecdotal things that I've heard from superintendents and principals. I knew that our youngest students would benefit, but it's really been older students who maybe weren't signing up for the free meal because of the stigma attached to it, who are now getting 2 squares every day that they are at school. And it's a simple thing, but it's going to pay off big dividends.
It's saving parents money too.
Yeah, $850 is what the average parent spends per student feeding them and packing their lunches every day.
Well, I know that, in my opinion at least, I felt like the administration kind of shifted a little bit, and there were some expedited priorities after the MSU shooting. Take me back there. What did change for you guys to get some work done?
I think the biggest change was the new legislature and new legislative leaders. And the Oxford tragedy happened, a couple of years ago now, but I couldn't get the Republican-led legislature to even engage in a thoughtful conversation about were there policies we could implement in Michigan that might, mitigate the likelihood of us living through that again. When the Michigan State shooting happened, we had Democrats in control in the House and Senate. They said, let's take action. And so these are common sense measures, red flag laws and extreme protection orders. We've got the ability for the requirement that parents have securely store their weapons. These are simple, important things, the background checks that can keep people safer. And so we got it done, and we got it done really quickly. And too many lives have been lost, too many have been scarred forever. But I'm grateful to so many who were able to tell the legislature, tell their story, tell the public why it's important we do this.
Which then transitions to the juvenile and the prison reform. Educate me a little bit more, because are we going to see, what are we seeing maybe in the next 1 or 2 years with the changes that have been made this?
Well, there's been some significant changes that we've been able to implement this year, one of which is something called clean slate. So people who've already served their sentences and have finished their parole or probation, they've paid their debt to society for the mistake that they made or whatever act they committed. And now we need to have them be fully re-engaged in the economy, fully re-engaged in our communities, be fully re-engaged with their families. But because they had something on their record, they weren't able to do this. And at a time when we have so many jobs that need to be filled, it's time to make people job eligible. And so the Clean Slate program has made 281,000 people in the state of Michigan now have clean records that can participate in the economy. They can go back to school. They can be reunited with their children and their families. This is a game changer. And Michigan has the most expansive and inclusive program in the country that does this automatically, that puts no barrier between people and their justice. Over the next 10 years, it's going to make 1 million people job eligible. So it's going to be a game changer for our economy and for entrepreneurship and growth in our state. In our juvenile system, this system is about positioning young people for success. In every community I visit, there are families who've been failed by the failures of our juvenile justice system. But now we're going to position young people for success through having services for them rather than only locking them up. We can get accountability through responsibility, not just by throwing someone away. And this is really going to make a difference for the trajectory of our young people, get them back in school, get them back engaged, get them back connected, and make them successful.
You briefly spoke about LGBTQ rights. Let's talk about women's rights. Abortion, the 1931 law got removed from the books. Talk about how important that was for you.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm really proud that Michigan is on the right side of history on both of these issues, right? As a mom of 2 young women, my oldest of whom is a gay woman, it was important to me to make sure that the LGBTQ community has full civil rights protections, which we got done, as well as making sure that all women have the ability to make their own decisions about their body and their ability to move in to whatever chapter they want to in their lives. And so getting both these things done, I think, was important for our state, was important for our competitiveness, was important for our people, but also was important for me personally, for my 2 daughters. So this is, I think, a moment where we can show that Michigan is leading the way. We see other states that are acting punitively or ignorantly taking away rights and otherizing people within their own borders. And in Michigan, we're telling the world, we're open for business. We're a place where every person is respected and protected under the law. And what's going on here, I think, is where everyone should be, and we're leading the way.
Are we there yet, though, or do we still got a long way to go for both gay rights and women's rights? And what can we do here in the state of Michigan?
Well, there's always work to do. There's always more that we can do. And I think that with this upcoming national election, we have to know that abortion rights, while we feel like we are solid in Michigan at the moment, can all get undermined by a Congress and president who want to have a national abortion ban, who want to take away ability to access medication abortion, mifepristone. And so this is still a precarious moment, and that's why we can't assume the work is ever done.
I know maybe we're talking about next year, but how deep involved will you maybe get into the political process for president next year? And not running, I'm just talking about supporting President Biden in his quest.
I think it's going to be another high-stakes election. And when you think about fundamentals like the right to vote, the right to live in a democracy, the right to make your own decisions about your body or who you marry, all of this, I think, is going to be on next year's ballot for president and for Congress and for U.S. Senate. The whole world's going to be looking to Michigan again. And so it's our job to make sure that we're telling the story of what we've been able to accomplish in Michigan with partnership and out of the Biden administration. It's also our job to make sure that everyone can participate in the election and have confidence in the outcome of the election, and to ensure that our poll workers are safe. And so I've just signed a whole nother package of election bills that make it easy for people to participate and have serious penalties if you try to mess with an election or mess with an election worker. And so I think we're leading on that front too.
Let's talk about voting access. She was talking about it. That's really been, from the very beginning, almost since the 2020 debacle, been a priority for Michigan to make it easier to vote. You've been part of that.
Well, it's about making sure that people can vote with confidence and they'll know their votes will be counted when it's cast, and that the people who are handling those ballots will be safe and respected. And so, we saw horrific images of people who were vote suppressors trying to disrupt that process in the state of Michigan, in the city of Detroit. We saw, previous Republican legislature introduce legislation that would make it more difficult for people to have their ballots cast and counted. But we've rejected that, and the voters of Michigan have rejected that both in 2018 and in 2022 on the ballot in terms of making it easier for people to vote here in Michigan. And so we want to continue that progress because more people participating in the political process is better for our future. It helps us get better policy. It helps us get more representative people in place that will do the work of the people of the state of Michigan. And so we're always going to fight for and defend that and protect that. And we're proud that, on the national level, President Biden and Vice President Harris have been fierce champions of that. And we look forward to them continuing to serve.
Really quickly, green energy, I can't leave without bringing that up because it's been kind of a big deal as of late. You've got quite a vision. How are you going to get that done?
Well, we just made Michigan a leader when it comes to our policies, and now we're going to work to make sure that we're successful. Michigan is leading when it comes to building batteries. A handful of years ago, there were 2 battery, undertakings in the country. Now there are over 35 of them are in the state of Michigan, and they need to be because of this importance to a transitioning auto economy. And so we've got, I think, a huge opportunity in front of us. We know that there are already organizations that are looking to invest in Michigan because of this clean energy transition that we're going to lead. And we also know it's the right thing to do for our economy, for the health of our people, and for good paying jobs.
Last question. Do you have a Christmas message? I don't want to put you on the spot, but Christmas messages for Michiganders for 2020?
Absolutely. Merry Christmas. I hope people enjoy what may not be a white Christmas this year, but certainly it has been a productive year in Michigan. Hold your loved ones close, and hopefully everyone can get a little bit of downtime, us included.
Oh, that's right. Happy holidays, everyone. God bless.